players at that time was to change the paradigm. And they looked first across the table at business and entrepreneurs. And they asked the question, what kind of graduates and postgraduates will you require in 3, 4, 5, 10 years' time? And they were not slow to give their answer, believe me. And with that answer, the government then turned to the universities, I'm simplifying, and said, we want you to produce that, and we will help fund you to do that. And then, of course, this was attractive to the trade unions, because if you have a much greater match between the requirements of the labour market and the supply being provided out of a greatly increased technological sector in the universities and the technical colleges, you then have more people at work, and you're going to have more people, even if the proportion doesn't rise in the same way, you're going to have more people joining trade unions. So the circle was made into a virtuous one, and everyone was a winner, and the country benefited enormously from it. Our export markets have suffered in the last year because we're an open economy. And if there's a big downturn here in the United States, we suffer because of that. We have generated a hugely transformed relationship with the United States over the years. There are something like 100,000 people working in Ireland for American companies that have taken root there. There are 80,000 Americans working for Irish companies in America. And there you can see the effect of the two-way economic relationship that the huge American and other investment in Ireland over the years has begun to pay dividends. And Ireland is in the top 6 external investors in the United States, believe it or not, over the past 4 or 5 years. So of course, if our partner, the United States, if the economy takes a downturn, we're going to feel the effects of that. If the European Union, the Eurozone, which has technically now gone into recession in the past week, if they have a downturn, we have implications and we suffer. But we're not in the situation that Iceland is in, for the reason that not only is Iceland not in the European Union, we are in the European Union, of course, but we are also in the Eurozone. We have the common currency of the euro with the other dozen or so countries within the European Union. That is our currency. It's the same currency as France and Germany and Italy and Spain and Sweden and the rest of them. The British have retained their currency. And in fact, that was a further step along the way, begun in the 1970s and copper fastened since then, when the Irish chose to go into the Eurozone and to take on the currency of Europe, the very money in your wallet of Europe, and no longer to remain with the same currency aligned to the British pound. And that was a huge psychological step and a further illustration of this maturing process of Ireland being able to stand on its feet within Europe. We are benefiting from the stability that flows in such circumstances from having a European central bank, from having the reserves of the combined reserves of the countries of the Eurozone, to participate in policy formulation and execution in the financial sector. Are there problems? Yes. Our government has had to take action. It's had to set up a guarantee fund or adopt legislation to have available, in case of need, 440 billion euro in case there is a run on any of the banks. There hasn't been a run on any of the banks. In fact, because that guarantee was instituted, many people say it steadied the nerves of investors and deposit holders.
That's almost $500 billion.
More than almost 500 billion euro, which is almost 700 billion. Now that was not money that we had to write the checks on immediately. That is a guarantee. Also, the Irish economy has been soundly run. You have all of the top pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, software development companies in the world are in Ireland. There are old-fashioned ideas that you still have to make things to have a real economy. We continue to make things. We make a lot of things. We make a lot of good things at the very high end. R&D has seen billions put into it at home. That gives us solidity. It gives us solidity. We are not simply going on the basis of moving and flying large sums of money around the globe and creaming off some of the cream of it occasionally and using that to sustain a bubble situation at home. That's not our situation. So the combination of an economy that has been well run over the last generation. To be sure, we've had something of a housing bubble like many other countries, and the steam has gone out of that, and frankly that's no bad thing in the end. And the fact that we are part of the European Union with the solidity and stability that that provides has helped us and will continue to help us to get through this.
I'd like to hand you over to Provost Scorza for the questions and answers.
Thank you, Excellencies. We have time for a few questions. So if you'd like to raise your hand and then step down to the microphone, I will recognize you.
No hard questions, please. I've had a few of those already.
Hello, Ambassador. I'm Caitlin Taylor. I was just wondering, you had spoken about the Lisbon Treaty and how it was rejected by the Irish people. And you were saying that one of the main reasons why is that the treaty itself is too complex and that people didn't understand it. But isn't that one of the main responsibilities for the government, to inform and educate their people? Did the government do anything to make it simpler for the people to understand, or?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. What the government did for many months beforehand, and I also have brought it along with me, I was half thinking of doing so, it published a great body of literature, reducing the whole thing into simple form, reducing it into explanatory booklets which could be accessible to people who are following it with various degrees of interest, starting from school kids up. There were many programs on television. There was much literature came through the door. I have a sense, and it's a very personal view, that democracy places a responsibility on the individual as well. And the government may feel that the information that was available to the electorate in general terms, given what transpired afterwards, might have been designed better, might have been targeted better, whatever. But my own personal view is that there is, at the same time, a responsibility on individuals to take the time to visit the websites, to ask their public representatives, to engage in debate and discussion, and to find out what this actually means before taking a position at the ballot box on such a far-reaching issue. Now, I think what will happen if, and it has not been decided, but if it were to come back to a second referendum, which has not been decided by the government that that's the way they want to go, because they truly do have to fully respect the decision that has already been taken by the people. But if it were to come to that, I can only imagine that there would be a much moderated and enlarged campaign of public information, that many more would be mobilized to make sure that the kind of concerns that the electorate had in the first occasion would be addressed. But as I